A distress phone call leads us to Nairobi's South B estate, where police have reported one of the most brutal murders since the year began. On arrival, we are directed to an apartment within the estate by the name Papino Apartment. The house number is Y32. The house is temporarily locked from the outside, sending a suspicious signal. Detectives gain entry only to encounter a tragic and a disturbing crime scene. A lifeless body of a young woman lying in a pool of blood in the sitting room area.
Welcome back, guys. I trust you've been staying safe. We are just 8 days into 2024 and already a whole lot of crazy is happening. It looks like some people are not ready to follow their New Year resolutions, or maybe, just maybe, the criminals didn't make any positive New Year resolutions, because a 26-year-old Kenyan socialite has been unalived in an Airbnb located in the capital, Nairobi. The name of this socialite is Starlet Wahu. And for those of you who are not familiar with her, just go on social media and just type Starlet Wahu and you see the beautiful soul that she was. I didn't know her personally. I didn't even know much about her until this. As I was going through my research, I saw that this was just a young lady trying to enjoy life and have fun. She was just 26 years old, and you could see that she was just trying to enjoy her life. But unfortunately, she has been unalived in this Airbnb in South B of Nairobi County in Kenya. If you are not familiar with the country Kenya, it's also a country here in Africa. Now, Starlet Wahu was also the younger sister of a controversial preacher by name Victor Kanyari, and she was found deceased in this Airbnb on the 4th of January 2024. So this was just 4 days into this new year. It's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate. So from this point, investigations commenced. And fortunately, because this Airbnb is well resourced, there were CCTV cameras around. And from my analysis of these CCTV footages, then my questions will come in. So police were able to get the footages. And when they watched the footages, they saw the 26-year-old Starlet Wahu actually arrived at this Airbnb by name Papino Apartments on the evening of Wednesday the 3rd of January in the company of a man who has now been identified as 34-year-old John Matara. You see where this is going, right? Exactly. Now, from the footage, you would see that Starlet Wahu and John Matara are seen entering an elevator within the apartment block before they got off the elevator on the 4th floor and then proceeded to their room, which they had apparently rented for a night. And I'm sure you can infer what was going to be done there. I'm not going to say it. I'm sure all of us are adults, so you know what was going to happen there. But unfortunately, police later discovered Wahu's remains in this apartment after the Airbnb's owner by name Florence Ingina told authorities that John Matara, the man she came with the previous night, had been seen hurriedly leaving the premises on the morning of Thursday, the 4th of January 2024. And guess what? The clothing he had on him had blood stains. Now, I'll pause here and ask my questions, or at least start asking them, because in the first place, I've seen this footage and you see that he didn't get John Matara in exiting this Airbnb after allegedly committing this heinous crime to Starlet Wahu, did not just exit unnoticed or exit alone. He entered an elevator with 3 people in there, and he was bleeding from his thigh through his clothing to the floor. Nobody made any fuss of it. Nobody asked any questions. He got off the elevator and tripped a woman, and then they saw his bloody prints, and the woman was a bit skeptical and stopped to look at him properly, but the rest of the people were just there, and he calmly just strolled away and left. Now, my question is, what else were these people who saw these signs waiting for before they approach him and ask him some question, or at least prompt the security on the premises about what they are seeing and direct that security towards this man, John Matara? Because I believe it's at that point when you begin to give a care about some of these things that we begin to make our society safe. Because today it's Starlet Wahu, it could be any other person tomorrow. And if we are not security conscious and positively curious about some of these things, it begins to weaken the security at the premises. Granted, there's a CCTV, but sometimes it takes the proactive intervention of humans upon seeing certain things like this to intervene, which could go a long way to either prevent the crime from happening or give the victim a fighting chance to be saved from whatever might have been done to the victim. And unfortunately, in this case, Starlet Wahu couldn't be saved because it seems that John Matara had allegedly locked the door when he was leaving her in the room. So, per the police report, it looks like she bled out, which is very, very unfortunate. So, when the owner was informed, the owner came and using a spare key, they gained access to the apartment only to discover Starlet Wahu, and then they made a report to the police. From this point, the police came in and assessed the situation. It was a whole crime scene, the details of which I cannot talk about here because of YouTube's graphic content policy, which I really respect, but I'm sure you can determine what it was. There was a struggle, there were injuries, and there were signs of injuries in the room, very vivid signs, of course. Now, a manhunt was put in place trying to find John Matara, and he was apprehended not long afterwards because he was so badly injured. He also had to try and seek medical attention in a hospital, and that was where he was eventually apprehended at. But it didn't end there because it turns out that not only is he a suspect in the unaliving of Starlet Wahu, but it's looking like he might actually be a serial killer who was yet to be identified or even noticed by the law, because after his arrest, another woman has come forward talking about the fact that she suffered a similar fate at the hands of John Matara, but she managed to escape, and police are now suspected this might not be the first time John Matara is taking someone's life, and that maybe Starlet Wahu might not be his victim, his first victim actually. To the point that police are suspecting John Matara might have done this before. There are even suspicions that possibly he might be a member of a gang of men who are sort of tricking and manipulating women on dating platforms, well-to-do women, of course, on dating platforms to get them in such situations and then rob them. Because if you look at John Matara, no disrespect to him, but then if you look at him and you look at this socialite Starlet Wahu, you wouldn't put them in the same class as far as swag and maybe affluence are concerned. So the question also is, how come he was able to get her to meet him there? Because Starlet Wahu is deceased, it's impossible to get her version of the issue and what transpired. So what is left is what John Matara would say and what the police investigation would also uncover. But it is unclear why they were there, although other reasons can be inferred based on the findings of the police, that they had some form of intimacy or they were planning to. But as to how come they agreed to meet there, I can't really determine yet because one of the persons is dead. So it is looking like John Matara may have done this before, but the police are yet to find evidence to corroborate same. and he's currently being detained for 21 days to help the police in their investigations. Now, they apparently met on a dating site, and to this I would kindly advise, don't believe the things you see on dating sites. Nobody would come on a dating site and talk about the fact that they are psychos or they are criminals. Everybody would come there trying to look good and pleasant, because the idea is they are advertising themselves so they score and find love. Some are looking genuinely for love. Some are also looking for victims to prey on. So for me, I would say that in this day and age, there is enough evidence to corroborate the fact that you are more likely to meet psychos on a dating platform than actually getting to know people in person to decide to date them. So rather try and get to know people before you go on a date with them, instead of just leaving it to the app and thinking that people are what they seem on these apps. It's getting more and more dangerous, and people, for that matter, criminals, have also realized that most of the people who come on these dating platforms are already a bit skewed towards being eager to meet someone that it doesn't take much to convince them to meet you. And I think some of them may be taking advantage of this. That is just my advice. Be very careful out there, because there are criminals, there are evil people trying to pass themselves off as good people on platforms where people come looking for people whom they think are good for them. As it stands now, Starlet Wahu has been laid to rest, but investigations are continuing. And I'm hoping to see that the investigations will be swift and conclusive, and then justice will be meted out, because this is painful. Honestly, this is painful. Some people are trying to judge her as to how come she was there with this guy, but for me, one, she's not married. Two, we don't even know how come they were there or what they decided to meet there to do. So I don't have much to judge her on, but I would rather focus on the law working to bring the justice. And I think to an extent, I also commend the management of the AirBnB. The CCTV footage made it a bit easier for the police to solve this case. You can imagine how difficult it would have been for them to solve it if these cameras were not even working. Some institutions have cameras installed, but they are not working, especially here in Africa. You see them showing the feed on screens, but they are not recorded because some of them are actually having no free hard drive space to record the footages. But most people don't know this, and some know but they don't take it serious. These are some of the advantages. If you are running a facility, a hotel, an Airbnb, whatever, a guest house, please have these things checked, serviced, and ensure that they are reliable. You could be the stitch in time that could save 9 in someone's issue, or sometimes even in an incident concerning this establishment. Imagine a member of the establishment was being accused of this crime. The establishment would have needed this footage to exonerate this person, and well, greatly enough, they do have it. So I'm following this case to see how it goes, and I'll bring you the updates as and when they are available. Until then, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the post notifications. Let me know what you think. Do you think that it's because of A, B, or C, or whichever reason you are thinking of that led to this, or you think that this is something that nobody could have seen coming? I'll catch you on the next one. Please and please stay safe out there.